Hello everybody, welcome back. The story I'm going to share with you today happened over 40 years ago. I haven't told it to anybody, I've kind of kept it to myself all these years. And I decided last night that I was going to make a video about it because maybe it could change somebody's life. You never know. Back in the late 70s, I was stage manager, roadie, lighting guy for a local rock band in Cincinnati, Ohio called ICE. And I was really enjoying it. It was a fun job, a lot of work, not much money at all, hardly anything usually. Mostly we got paid every once in a while. We were lucky. Usually they would buy us breakfast at the end of the night, at Denny's or something, and that was pretty much it. But we were all hoping that this band was going to make it to the big time and we were going to all be famous, or they were going to be famous, and I'd still be working for them. Of course, that never happened. But anyway, one night we were working at a club called Never on Sunday, and it wasn't unusual back then in the 70s to hook up with girls at the end of the night. It was the 70s, working for a rock band, lots of girls around. And so one night we're there, and I meet this girl named Shelly, and she knew Johnny, the keyboard player, because her ex-husband had been Johnny's best friend and they'd gone to Vietnam together. And so we're hanging out together, during the breaks and stuff. The night ends, Shelly and I end up hooking up and I go home with her. I'm just thinking like it's just another girl, just another one-night stand, no big deal. And it ends up being like a 6-month on-again, off-again relationship. And so Shelly tells me about her ex-husband. His name was Ray. And this is a really nice guy, football player, I believe, popular guy in high school, gets drafted, goes to Vietnam. Him and Johnny go together. And they had a horrible, horrible experience over there. It was just traumatic for both of them. They saw some terrible things. They did some terrible things. And it just changed him. When he came back, he was a totally different person. They had 3 children. When I met Shelly, they were like 5, 7, and 9, I think, something like that. 2 boys and a girl. And Ray comes back from Vietnam, and he's drinking, he's doing drugs, he's abusive. And make a long story short, after several months of being home, they split up, they get a divorce, and he just takes off and she never sees him. He's just gone. She's getting money from the government, through the VA or whatever, and that's how she's surviving when I meet her. And so we're together, we got this relationship, it's just, I wouldn't even call it a relationship. It's like I'm there sometimes I'm not, we come and go. It's, like I said, it was the 70s. And she's older. She's 27, I'm 21. She's got 3 kids. She's divorced. I've got a job that basically doesn't pay hardly anything. Well, anyway, we're together one afternoon. I think it was like a Saturday afternoon. We're home and she's cooking dinner or whatever. And there's a knock at the door. I answer the door, and there's this guy there, and he says, "Hi, I'm Ray, and just wonder if I could see my kids." And I realized, well, this is Ray, I've heard all about him. I said, "Yeah, sure, come on in." Like, I treated him like he was a welcome guest. I said, "Come right on in." And Shelly, of course, is just shocked to see him. Like, it was like she saw a ghost. Because she hadn't seen him in years. She hadn't heard a word from him. He just had disappeared off the face of the earth. So he comes in, and they have like a tense little visit, talking, and he sees the kids. They don't recognize him. None of them recognize him. They don't know him. And it goes okay. He's nice to them. He's friendly. He's not on drugs, not high or nothing. He's, neatly dressed. I just kind of stayed out of the way. I couldn't go anywhere. I didn't have a car. Shelly didn't have a car. And it's a 2-bedroom apartment. So I just kind of moved out of the, forget into where the TV was and kind of stayed out of the way and let them have their visit. He didn't stay that long. It's like maybe an hour or so, and then he left. Well, the next day, he asked to come back, and we knew he was coming back. He came back the next day, and he bought the kids all these toys. He bought like new bicycles for them. and some other toys and stuff. And I left and went over and visited a friend of mine and kind of left them bit together. I'm thinking, great, he's back, he's not drinking anymore, he's not on drugs. Maybe Shelly give him another chance and they can get their family back together and it'll all be happily ever after. And I'm fine with that, And so I come back like the next day and she's happy and everything. I said, it's totally okay with me if you guys want to get back together, he seems like a nice guy and he's the father of your children and all that. And she says, well, we'll see. He seems like he's changed, but I'm still kind of concerned. And so he kept coming back and forth, and visiting, but he wouldn't never say when he would come. Like, he'd just kind of drop in, stay for a little while and leave. And I was still staying there because I didn't have any place else to go. I mean, we were, living together and I was staying there. But I wasn't like, I hadn't moved in. I didn't have any furniture there. None of my stuff was there. I had like maybe a backpack with my clothes in it that I had, and that was it. None of my stuff was there. Had a guitar there. I think that was it. Well, anyway, we just got hearing from him all of a sudden. He just quit coming over. And the day goes by, a couple of days go by, a week goes by, and she doesn't hear from him. She says, I'm kind of worried about him. I haven't heard from him, and so we called Johnny. Have you heard from Ray? No, he hasn't heard from him. And Johnny knew where Ray was staying. And so they decided to go over there and check on him. And so they all got in. Johnny picked up Shelly, and the two of them went over there. I didn't go. And they went over to Ray's house. And they walk inside, the door's locked, they break the door open. He had taken a shotgun and blown his brains out. He killed himself. And of course, they find the body. Shelly's just totally freaked out, obviously. And when I come back and I hear the whole story, I can just see it in Johnny's eyes that he kind of blames me for it. If I hadn't been in the picture, if I hadn't been there, if I hadn't hooked up with her, Ray would have come back and she would have been alone with the kids, and maybe they would have got worked out. They would have become a family again. Who knows? But me being there, he obviously thought that he had no chance. That Shelly was with me and we were together, and that was it. And he had no chance, and so he went and took his own life. That's what I'm assuming. We'll never know the truth, but it seems kind of logical. So, a week goes by, there's a funeral, there's, all that stuff, and settling affairs and everything, and I'm still kind of in the background. The band's still working. I'm still playing with the band, going with the band. And I can tell, Johnny's whole demeanor towards me had changed. I know in his heart he blamed me for the whole thing. And Shelly and I's relationship was kind of, rocky anyways. But she had received some money from an insurance policy or something. And we decided she wanted to go see a movie. We hadn't seen a movie, and so the whole time we were together, we'd never gone to a movie, never gone to dinner, nothing. And I said, okay, yeah, we'll go see a movie. So we get a bus, get a babysitter for the kids, the neighbor, and we take a bus downtown to see a movie. And the movie that we went to see, the only one that was playing there when we showed up, was Deer Hunter. And if you never heard of Deer Hunter, never seen it, it's a really intense film, all about Vietnam, the bad things that happened there, and the central theme to it is Russian roulette, where these guys basically shoot themselves in the head. And you can imagine, of all the movies, when she's just getting over this, it's only been a couple of weeks. We should have just got up and walked out, but we were just kind of shocked by the whole movie. It's a very intense film. And so we sat there for the whole movie. On the way home in the bus, neither one of us said anything. And it just, it put a visual picture in our heads that was hard to get rid of, especially for me. I didn't see the body. I wasn't there when she did, so you can imagine what it did to her. Well, she decided she just wanted to get out of town. She wanted to go someplace just to get away, had to get away. And she had bought a car. She had a little bit of money from the insurance. She bought this cheap car. And so I said, okay, I don't know where we're going to go, but we decided to go to the Smoky Mountains, which is, about 100 miles away. So we get in the car and we drive the Smoky Mountains, stay at some lousy, motel, saw a few, cheap sights. And we were driving home and we get into another argument because she was I think she was angry at me because maybe she blamed me too, and she was maybe angry about the movie, even though I didn't know about the movie. But she was just, wanted to have a fight. Sometimes people are like that. And we get into an argument, and I'm not a combative guy. I don't like to have arguments with women or with anybody, And I just said, look, stop the car. He stopped the car. He stops the car. I had my backpack. It was almost like I knew something was going to happen because I didn't have like a suitcase or nothing. I had my backpack that same one I hitchhiked to Florida with when I was a teenager. Had a change of clothes in, a toothbrush, and that's about it. No money. And I get out of the car in the middle of Smoky Mountains and she drives off. And I never saw her again. I hitchhiked to my parents' house in Kentucky. Was there for about a week. And my mother suggested, she said, well, you need a job. Why don't you, there's a theater called the Beef and Boards Dinner Theater out in Simpsonville, like 40 minutes away. Why don't you go out there and apply for a job? I go, well, I never worked in a theater before. I don't know anything about theater. She will just say you're a stagehand. And I just I had to do something. So I said, okay. So I got on the phone, I thought I'd call them and I'd ask if they needed any help, if they were hiring, and they'd say no, and that'd save me a trip out there. So I call them up and get the, reception and said, hi, I'm a stagehand. I'm just calling to see if you guys need anybody, if I could apply for a job. Hold on. And they put me on to the producer or director. Told him my name, basically, what I've been doing with the bands and stuff. He said, yeah, come on down. So my mother drives me out there and get an interview. Next thing you know, I'm hired. I'm stunned. I'm hired, like minimum wage, $5 an hour. And I'm going to be a stagehand. And so I'm helping to build sets and everything. Make a long story short, within 6 months, I went from just being like a stage guy, just helping build sets and things like that, to being the equity stage. It was a union theater, Actors Equity Association. And the stage manager got fired for just being lazy. And they made me executive stage manager, union contract. And I was stage managing like Mickey Gilley, Mickey Gilley, Rick Nelson, Jerry Lee Lewis, The Platters, Fifth Dimension, all these bands, Blood, Sweat and Tears. And also acting, and they put me in minor roles as an actor. I got some commercial jobs out of it, and my whole life turned around. I bought a 1974 Datsun 240Z, really super cool car. And everything just turned around for me from being on the road in the middle side of the highway in the middle of the Smoky Mountains with no money in my pocket to being an executive stage manager at a really nice theater. But going back to what happened, I was young and you're just thinking, you're just hooking up with this girl. It's not a serious relationship. She knew it wasn't a serious relationship. But you don't think about the consequences. Just because I was with her, this guy Ray finally gets the courage enough and cleans his act up and comes back and tries to put his life back together, get his wife back, get his children back. And he's all prepared to do that. He's done everything right. And he knocks on the door and there I'm standing there. And what he doesn't realize is I'm not in his way. I'm not going to stop him. I want him to get back with his family. Maybe I should have said that, but I welcomed him into the house. I stayed out of the way like I wasn't jealous or anything like that. But still, he thought that, I was the competition and he didn't have a chance, and he committed suicide. And then on top of that, something I never even think of until I had children myself, is these 3 little kids, I'm around them all the time, so they start looking at me as like a father figure. And I'm not a father figure. I'm a 21-year-old roadie, with a rock band that's sleeping with their mother and no intention of being their father, not now, not then, not ever. But, I wasn't thinking about that. I wasn't thinking about them. And you just have to, in your life, look around you, and the things you're doing, you may think they don't have consequences because it's not affecting your life, but it could have drastic effects for somebody else. It could be a simple thing like, you take a promotion at a company for a job and you don't really want the job. You hate working there, but you take the job anyway. And so you slug it out in that job for like a year or two. But what you don't realize is the guy that has been there for 8 years and wished he had that job and been waiting for that job his whole life, and he doesn't get it because they give it to you, the new guy, because maybe you got a college degree or you're a little more qualified than he was or whatever, and you basically ruin his life. Maybe he commits suicide. So you have to be more aware of what's going on around you and have more empathy for other people. And I've kind of learned that. I try and think about, what I'm doing, how it's affecting other people around me. And I just think that's the lesson I learned from this experience. And I still think to this day, like, what would have happened if that night I'd met another girl instead of her? Or maybe I just decided not to hook up with her because I knew her backstory. I said, this is complicated. She's friends with Johnny, and Johnny was best friends with her ex-husband, and it's too messy. But I was 21. Pretty girl wants to be with me. Okay, fine. That's all I thought about. And so that's whatever lesson there is to be learned there, I'm sharing it with you guys. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And sorry it wasn't a funny or happy story, but that's the way life is.